Don't you love that passage as it says, now faith is the substance of all that you are hoping for, all that you're believing for. What is found within all that you're believing for? It is that faith, your thoughts, those ideas, those beliefs that come to mind. They're the substance. That's what your faith is made of. It is the evidence of the things that you are not seeing, but in your heart you are believing for. Faith, how powerful it is. Yet oftentimes we don't realize that faith is being tested. In life, there's a lot of things that are being tested, and it's a good thing that we test out certain things, is it not? How many of you test drive a car before you bought your car? How many test drive or checked out some things like at your house? You looked at it and had a good inspection to make sure that it was all in working order, the furnace and the plumbing, etc., right? How many of you tested out certain other things in life as we begin to test out just to find out how's it working? Is it working good? Is it a good thing? And in that process, we learn an awful lot, don't we? So too is our faith tested. Tested for the reason to see, how does it work? And how's it working in your life? Because what Jesus inspired within all of humanity was that we might be people of great faith. Not just okay faith, not just average faith, but a faith that moved mountains, a powerful faith, a faith that transformed the world, a faith that had such evidence of things hoped for within it, a faith that was so full of the substance of believing that could manifest and create, manifest and unfold the miraculous in our lives. How many of you are ready to live that kind of life? That you're just that kind of person walking every day in the faith of God, knowing that great things are unfolding for you. Not walking in question and wonder, not searching and wondering to say, wait a minute, I'm not certain that this is really going to happen for my life, but in that incredible certainty, you're living with an assurance in your life that is so powerful, so strong, that when you speak these words and you declare exactly that which you desire in your hearts and lives, your faith says, I know that I know that I know. Wow, isn't it wonderful to have it tested? When it's tested and it works, you build on it, don't you? You exercise it. You say, wow, I know that as my faith was tested last week, this week there may be new challenges for me, and I'm going to build on that. It's going to become stronger. There will be more and more assurances coming my way. We find this wonderful story in the Old Testament of Abraham. His too is our story. It's the story of living a life of faith that is a high on a mountain experience, or we might call it a Rocky Mountain High. Yeah, a Rocky Mountain High, for Abraham was called to go upon a mountain and there offer a sacrifice. For as we find this story unfolding for us, it's a story of the growth within Abraham's life. It's a story of you and me and our individual growth. Our growth of our spiritual lives and how we're moving to a higher level. And I love that because that's the true calling of our lives. Every day we're at this level, but we're not content to stay there, are we? We want to move to another level. More understanding, greater knowledge, greater wisdom, greater unfolding in faith, stronger faith than we ever had before, that we might be the miraculous, the miracle workers of this day and age. There's something about living life from a higher level of understanding that transforms everything. When we rise to these high views, we can overlook all the chaos of life, and we can see life from a whole new vista. Let me tell you this, we're called City of Light for a powerful reason. There is a beautiful dynamic behind this name that unfolds for us as we continue to look at that passage from Matthew chapter 5 that says, a city built on a hill, a higher level of understanding, a higher level of consciousness cannot be hidden. People who have risen to a higher level of understanding are going to stand out in the crowds, not because of arrogance, not because they say they know better, but because of what they live and how their witness is seen for all the world to see. How the world experiences the level of understanding we have in our lives. Let me tell you this, get ready, because that new church is built on a hill. The new church we're moving to in 1934 Cliff Valley Way, in about a year as the renovations are completed, it's built on a hill. It is a rock of solid foundation. The soil, we had it tested this past week, and they drilled down in to see, wait a minute, how much rock is in there? Because we needed to know that if we're going to do some renovations on the parking lot. If we're going to move some dirt, are we going to just start with scraping off that parking lot and hit boulder after boulder after boulder? They needed to find out, but they discovered that this is truly a firm foundation that we're built on. And that rock is calling us to really overlook the city as we're on this hill, and we have a beautiful view. If you get a chance to go on the rooftop, wow, you can see all of Atlanta and Buckhead, and it's just amazing. But it symbolizes exactly who we are, rising up to a higher level, standing on a firm foundation, and seeing the world from a whole different view. In fact, the architect is working on a beautiful facade for the front of that building, which will carry a tower, a light that's going to be a beacon that will go on in the evenings and shine into the night sky. He's working with DeKalb County to make sure we got all the permits in line for that. And it's going to be a beautiful metaphor as City of Light illuminates the world of darkness with this message of greater truth that says we have a powerful faith that when tested, it's standing on firm foundation. It's a rock, and it's rising high above the world to be seen. And that's truly how we want to live our life for each and every day. Along with that, this week, we just completed our applications with the Emerson Theological Institute, where we're going to be a training center and an extension of this theological training center out of Oakhurst, California. It'll enable us to open the doors for training pastors and offering higher levels of education on a degreed level. If you're seeking a theological degree at a master's or doctorate level, we're going to be able to offer that through the classes that are going to be here at our extension of Emerson Theological Institute. We really see ourselves as this kind of city of light. We're not just talking about it. We want to radiate this wonderful truth that's living within our lives. We are doing everything we can to share this message, not only in metaphor with beacons going to the sky, not only in metaphor with a building on a solid rock that reaches as a high hill, not only in that, but living out every day with the teaching opportunities that we're affording for new pastors, new teachers, people to go out in the world and take that light and transform that light. Well, for years, we've been a training center. We have, as we've laid down the foundation through this congregation for many great pastors who are even now around our city. Did you know that Michael Piazza, who is the pastor of the Virginia Highland Church in Virginia Highlands, a United Church of Christ, started here? He began in this congregation years ago in the 80s, and now pastors another congregation within Atlanta. Randy Morgan of New Covenant, known as the Saved and Gay Church, a Pentecostal church, started here in this congregation. And one time served as our church janitor, but birthed out of this, went out and did great ministries. Sylvia Ramos, recently ordained in the Disciples of Christ in Peachtree Corners, Georgia, worked in ministry here in our sound booth and our multimedia programs, started her ministry and awareness with God in this place. J.R. Finney, some of you remember him, is the pastor in Birmingham, Alabama of the United Church of Christ there. Alan Mosley of Amour Spiritual Center in Seattle, Washington. He began some of his ministry connections and walk with God and through this church. Wow, we could go on with a list. What I'm trying to point out is to you is that, folks, this idea of being a light for the world is innate within our DNA. Amen? We see it as something that we've been doing, but we're just calling it out now and saying we understand more and more with clarity what we are called to do, to share this light, this wonderful illumination. And we are claiming that this great things are unfolding not only for us as a congregation, but claiming for each and every one of you individually. Each and every one of you. I want you to know that this week I've been praying for you, lifting up your name. I have a list of the directory of every member, active and inactive, every regular attendee. I go through that list, and I called out your name this week. I called out your name in prayer, holding you up and believing and affirming that great things are happening in your life. Why? Because I have that kind of faith. That faith says, I know that God desires to unfold something wonderful, incredible. Healing, strength, wisdom, guidance, insight. Something miraculous that you've been secretly desiring within your heart and life. That's what I've been praying for God knows even more than I. I don't need to know the specifics. I just need to have the faith that says, I affirm this. I'm not asking in a context of uncertainty, or asking in a sense of, I'm not questioning God's limitations or ability. I already know that. So I'm asking, as I prayed for you this week, for something wonderful to happen in your life, something amazing. And maybe it's already unfolding for you. Maybe it was a new job or a new opportunity or something unfolding for you at work. Maybe already in the journey of your life, you've experienced some health and strength. Maybe you found a newfound surge of boldness come to you, an energy level that rose up within you. I'm not sure what had happened for you, but I hope as you look back, you see that something miraculous began to unfold in your life as a result of prayer. Because faith is crucial for our lives. And I'm believing for that for you. Now, Abraham had a wonderful story for us. As we look at it, we find that he has a dream that speaks to him in a powerful way, that calls him out for a life-transforming experience. How many of you have some dreams that speak to you? I'm not talking about dreams of a spicy pizza that you had the night before and you tossed and you turned. That's maybe just calling you to say, watch your diet. But there are dreams where it's really our subconscious rising up, speaking to us. In the stillness of our thought, the mind is quiet enough for that which to rise up. And sometimes we have these bizarre dreams full of symbolism, as our mind is struggling to process, as the very inner spirit is speaking to us. And these dreams often are speaking to us, calling us to resolve something so we can move to a higher level. Speaking to us that you've got to do something to get to that higher level. Often calling us to say, get ready. Something better is happening for you. But maybe in that process of getting ready, we have to let something go. We have to realize this. So it was true for Abraham. As he begins to feel the call of some sort of spiritual awakening within his life, to say, wait a minute, I need to offer my son as a sacrifice. Now that truly has to be a strange dream that you would give of your beloved child. But here it was, in this moment, Abraham is awakening to something in a struggle that's deep within his life that says, sometimes we cherish things so much. We love things so much. And they may be gifts from God that God has given us, but we love them so much that they actually become a roadblock for something greater in our lives. Sometimes we value the things of God that have been given to us more than we might even value the giver. Sometimes we're so caught up in the thing that, oh, wow, God gave me this great job. And I'm so grateful for what the beautiful gift that has been given to me. But you know what? I'm going to work so much, I'll never have time for church. I'm going to go there and my spiritual life will be affected, but I am just so grateful for this job. I'm celebrating the goodness of the job that I just received. And suddenly in that great gift that God gave you now becomes the barrier between you and the giver of that great gift. Sometimes people with great talent, God gave them a good talent, a beautiful talent. Yet they're sometimes hesitant to even think about using it, and using it in some way or sharing it some way. And so suddenly that talent, because they're so guarded over it, and so saying, well, I only want to do it when it's perfect, they don't exercise or release it. Sometimes it becomes their very roadblock to the source of even greater blessing. You see, for us to move the mountain, to climb up that journey to a higher level in spirituality, sometimes we have to let go of something. We do. We have to be willing to give to receive. We have to let go of some things to create this divine flow. Because sometimes we've been caught up by the physical, and we've been caught up by the blessing of God, and we hold onto it so hard in possession, we don't realize that that's holding us back from releasing with open arms and allowing the divine flow to come into our hearts and our lives. So it is in this dream, Abraham realizes his cherished son, the one that he believed for, the one that was promised to him, the one that was given to him and his wife when his wife was of an elderly age, the miracle, that which he took so much pride and joy in. Suddenly it's the voice within him is calling him to say, maybe I need to release and let go so that I might allow something greater to happen within my life. You can imagine how this struggle goes on as the very energy of God is speaking in the spirit and presence is working within Abraham in this life. And sometimes what it is in these dreams, it's calling us to do some simple house cleaning. We got to go inside and go deep within and realize, wait a minute, what kind of things have we planted in our subconscious that's holding back there, that's keeping us from moving forward? Things that we may value more than the very experience of just being in God. There are a lot of people who think of things that they've got ideas of lack or inability to share or really give generously because there's really deep within. If they go down deep within, they're finding, oh, I got some stuff down there that I need to let go of. I need to clean out. I need to do some house cleaning. Things that we were given to me become more important than the very giver, or things that we realize have come in the way that are keeping us from the very true source, that very power and presence of God. We can release anything, truly, as long as we have the faith that the very substance of things, that very thought, that is filled with the knowledge that as we do it, we're going to bring about a greater good. Now let me tell you this. This is the kind of faith of Abraham. It's a strange story. I find it very troubling to think that a father might offer a sacrifice of his son. It's just so full of metaphor in its teaching for our lives. So full of symbolism. Because as we see as the day unfolds, whether it's in dream or in reality, Abraham is preparing to make a sacrifice and gathers with those and climbs up the mountain. Going up the mountain, there was a higher consciousness within him, an awareness. God is always making a way. God will provide. That's the core, the substance of our faith. When we know that, we can do anything. We can let go of anything. You all could write a check for $1,000 today and say, if you have that kind of faith that says, I know that if I release this, there's more yet coming. You all could give of whatever it may be that is in your heart and your life that has been given to you with such freedom and such liberal attitudes, if you really knew and embraced that everything you do through God is making a way for the greater good to happen. This is the mountain high that says God has already provided. Wow. Now that's an amazing thing. When we live, walk, breathe, and say God has already provided. The next thing is already provided. God has already provided. Do you realize that you breathe? You breathe in and you exhale. But you already say, I know there's more air to breathe. You didn't breathe one breath and I better hold it because it's all the air that's going to be. There's going to be no more air for me. I'll never have another breath. So I just hold. No, you let it go. You breathe in, you breathe out, you breathe in, you breathe out. Why? Because you know there's more. You already know how to live that kind of faith. You already know that there is more to be experienced, more to be received, more to be claimed each and every day of your life because you're living it in a day-to-day journey of breathing. So it is when you think about walking in faith with God to say, I can do miraculous things. I can release of anything knowing that I'm going to receive because there's more yet in abundance for me. That's that passage of Scripture that says, give and it shall be given unto you. That's a spiritual principle. Give or release. And something more is going to come unto you. The better promise is there, for God in this power of releasing or of giving is enabling and allowing for more things to happen in our life. Now, here's the thing. We struggle within our Christian walk because we think God is always asking for things. God always wants my money. So we think. The church always wants my money. No, God doesn't need your money. God does not need your money. God does not need your things. God does not need the material things. Why? Because God already possesses and is in all things. For that is what God is. So there's no need. Then God does not have a need. We have a need. We have the need to release and to let go. It's not the thing, it's the idea or the thought around the thing that we need to let go. You see, it wasn't really important that Abraham sacrificed the son. What was really important is that Abraham dealt with the idea that the son was more cherished, more valued, more important to him than the relationship with the giver who gave him the son. See, when we understand that, sometimes it's about getting things into right priority of our thinking. That's the most important issue in our life. It's a releasing of these thoughts that say, I could never give that because this is too valuable to me. It's more valuable than anything. Oh, wait a minute, what am I saying? I need to release that thought. Let me let that go and say, I could give anything. I could live truly my life in simplicity just to be in the divine presence of God. And knowing when we're there, all things work together for good. And the great provider has already provided for you in that place. So what Abraham is really sacrificing is not a son. It's the thoughts, the ideas, the substance of a faith that actually could be a negative faith. You know, there's two kinds of faith. Faith is what you believe, right? So if you believe that you're sick, and you put faith in also that sickness. And you know what? The more faith you put into sickness, the more it manifests. For faith is the evidence of things not seen, or the evidence of that which you've hoped for and believed for. So every time you walk around and say, I'm sick, you're putting faith into sickness. And what we have then is negative faith. There's positive faith, which says, I'm well and I believe in the wellness of God. It's God's desire for me to walk in wholeness and completeness. I am walking right now in complete health and strength. And in that faith, it is the evidence of that which is hoped for and believed for. So here it is that we realize that we're releasing, letting go of those ideas or concepts that may hold us back. Negative faith, hold us back from the all good. In releasing this thing, we are allowing us to now see, I want to see God, the ultimate source in my life. That's really what I want. Because that's what we all want to live. Just be in God, and everything is there. Just be in the divine presence. Just be held right here in the loving God, hands of God, in that divine awareness. When you're in that divine awareness, everything unfolds for us. That's the very promises. So our faith needs to be tested for us to practice it. For it's only in practice that we get better at it. So life is bringing you these wonderful, joyous moments to test your faith. To say, how much do you really believe in the very promises and principles of God? How much do you believe it? Because faith is going to give you this, life is going to give you this opportunity to grow, to stretch, to mature in faith. Some of us will grow and graduate from 3rd grade of faith school and move on to 4th grade. Some of us will be held back and will repeat the 3rd grade in faith school again and again. Some of us will move on and will go on to faith school of high school level of understanding. And some of us will move on to college and university level. And others, well, still in 3rd grade, still there, trying to work how does faith work for my life? Because we don't practice it. Too often we think that the faith life is one that receives the abundance and all that there is without the development or the practice of faith. So we just say, hey, it's just going to happen for me. I don't need to practice. I don't need to work on the power of my believing. You know? I don't know about anybody who's ever gone to a gym and day one has been able to pick up 500 pounds. It's something you work on. Some of us are still trying to lift 5 pounds. Some of us are still trying to lift 10 pounds. Some of us say, you know, I ain't going to lift any pounds because I just gave up. It's too hard, too much work. It's the practice that builds us up. Peter gets out of the boat and starts walking on the water. We all know this wonderful story. We've talked about it time and time again. Jesus could have said to him, Peter, you're sinking. Let me do it for you. And oh, we would like that. Yeah, let me just sit here. You all do it for me. Jesus, just do it for me. Jesus, take the wheel. We sing and we say and we kind of use that phrase and say, you just do it for me because, wait a minute. God says, no, it's your responsibility. I'm not taking the wheel. You take the wheel. You take the wheel and exercise your faith and that which you believe. You take the wheel and practice what I taught you to believe. Practice your faith. Exercise it. You do it. If I do it all for you, how are you ever going to grow? school. I'm telling you, I've seen far too many parents where we've all done things for our kids and they never had a chance to grow. Oh, honey, let me make that bed for you. I love doing something for my kids, you know, that kind of parent. Oh, honey, let me cook for you. You never need to know how to cook. Mommy's going to do everything for you. Daddy's going to do it all. Oh, honey, don't you even worry about driving that car. I'll drive you everywhere. And then you wonder why these kids can't do a single thing. And yet we apply that to our spiritual lives. And we say, oh, God, you're going to do everything for me while I sit here and do nothing. Show me a biblical example of that. Well, what does Jesus say to the lame man? Do you want to be healed? Then you pick up your bed and walk. Jesus doesn't say, I'm going to get your bed for you. No, you just sit there. I'll do everything for you. Why even bother trusting and believing or exercising your faith? I'll take care of everything. You just be you and just continue in that victim status as the sick poor force. No! Jesus said, if you want it, you claim it. It's your responsibility. If you want to believe for mountains to be moved, God's ready to move them. But you've got to exercise your faith. Practice it is what it is. For faith is the assurance, and assurance only comes to us as we experience it over and over again, that we come to this place. Now, Abraham is at the top of the mountain in this wonderful consciousness, this awareness in his mind of knowing that God will provide. For just in that moment, his son turns to him and says, hey, Dad, we're up on the mountain. You said we're going to make a sacrifice. There's wood. We got the fire. What are we going to sacrifice? And what does Abraham say? God will provide. Jehovah Jireh, God the great provider. God will provide. That's what it is. In that moment, it doesn't matter what's the unfolding of Abraham's understanding is that in this moment of being tested in faith, it's like God will provide. I'm walking up to the mountain with my most cherished thing, my son. I'm walking up with wood and fire with the intention of sacrificing something. But I already know. God will provide. That's the kind of faith that has full of such assurance that says everything is working for good. And let me tell you this, when God provides, are we surprised? Are we shocked? We shouldn't be, because our faith said we already put that substance forward. We already claimed it. It's the evidence that we're now experiencing of that which we've already believed. And as we release of these things, we know that something more wonderful is coming to us, is going to unfold. And our faith is tested just like Abraham's. As we come to these moments where we have to simply say, God has already provided. Not maybe, will be, kind of, sometimes. We hope so. But this kind of assurance that no matter what you just walk through each and every experience, knowing that it's going to happen. Do you have that kind of faith that says, I can give sacrificially of anything because I know that as I surrender to the very source, there's so much more. I'm able to give knowing that I will receive of all kinds of things. Not more things, shall I say, material, but I will receive of the divine blessing that is far greater than just material things. I'm going to receive of that higher consciousness of wisdom, insight, and presence, the divine love that is with me at all times that strengthens me. Let me tell you this, Abraham called that moment the Jehovah Jireh moment. And I hope that every day this week, as I've been praying for you and will pray again this week, with the faith that says, I'm claiming a Jehovah Jireh moment for you. That when you're at that point of wondering, you're going to already just breathe in and say, well, I know there's more air. I'm breathing in with faith. I know there's more faith to believe. I know that there's more because I know God has already provided. And I am walking. I am living. I'm experiencing a Jehovah Jireh moment right now. I'm just like an Abraham, living it out today. I'm on my mountaintop, and I'm called for this moment. But what calls for me to do is simply say, God has already provided. And I invite you to come to that Rocky Mountain high. Woo! That's a high. It is a spiritual high. When you walk into life's moments saying, I know that I know, I'm not worried, I'm not fearful, I'm not troubled, I'm not stressed. I'm not any of those things. Why? Because God has already provided, and I walk now with an authority and a boldness into this world. I go to work with that kind of feeling in my heart and my life. I walk through the day-to-day journey. I walk through everything, the chaos of the world that wants to provide all around me, but God has already provided. I'm in the Jehovah Jireh moment, and that's what I claim for you. A higher consciousness is called up to the mountain that says, at that mountain point, I know it's already there. Abraham was a great teacher down through the ages. And here's the beautiful thing. He was willing to give of something so powerful, meaningful, and special to his life. And here's the promise. God said, if you're willing to give of your descendant, I'm willing to make you the father of many descendants. As we have this kind of faith, it says, I am ready to give because I know that the power of blessing is already in cycle flow for my life. As I'm willing to say, here it is. I surrender all. I give it all. Whatever may be that's a roadblock, whatever's holding me back, all I want is the divine presence in my life, and I want it to such fullness that when I walk and breathe every day, I'm in a Jehovah Jireh moment. That's what I want. Because when you live that kind of life, you will be victorious. Abraham gave us this beautiful example, and the blessing of God poured out through him in a mighty way. Ooh, church, I'm going to tell you this right now. The Spirit of God wants to work through you in a mighty way this week. You are called to be a blessing at work. You are called to be a blessing at home. You're called to be a blessing to your neighbors. You're called to be a blessing to anybody around you, and you're going to touch and transform their life as you open your life to that Jehovah Jireh experience. Amen. Output.